There we go.
And we're live.
And here we are.
All right, so we decided to switch things up a little bit because Vivian's doing all this hard work, not only to help run this event and get everything going and interviewing all of us, but she needs to be interviewed too. So I volunteered.
Jesus.
Doing it off the fly. I don't know what to ask. Vivian, who are you?
Well, my name's Vivian Noir, and I am the host of the Dead Hours, and I kind of do two shows on the Dead Hours. So one of them is on Paraflix. It's an interview show, much like this one that you guys are watching. The other one is on YouTube. That's the Murder Corner. Mm-hmm. So that one is all true crime all the time. Go check it out. I just finished a mini-series about cults. That was an 8-part mini-series. And I write books and do all kinds of other spooky things.
So how did what got you into the paranormal world? You started with a podcast.
Yes.
How did starting that podcast, doing that podcast, lead to the Dead Hours in your show?
So I used to have a podcast that I did with two friends. It was called This Spooky Show, and basically we all had spooky interests that we were all like, we should do a show about this. We love talking about like ghosts and horror stuff and macabre things. So let's all do a podcast together. And some of us are mildly funny. I think I'm mildly funny sometimes, not all the time. So we were like, yeah, let's do that. It's really fun. And then it kind of hit its stride, and then it kind of fell off. We had some creative differences, and things kind of ended. And I was like, man, I really like the idea. And actually, I think I floated the idea to Patrick first. And I went, I have an idea. I want to do an interview show where I interview paranormal investigators. I was like, what do you think of that? I was like, is it stupid? He's like, no, that sounds awesome. So I kind of and oddly enough, the name, the Dead Hours, I had the name before I even really kind of had an idea of it. The name just literally popped in my head. And I was like, that's such an awesome name. I need to do something with it. What do I do with it? I want to do an interview show because I've investigated a little bit, not as much as you guys. I've more experience as a researcher, but what you guys do is so interesting, and I wanted to give exposure to not only the bigger channels on YouTube, but smaller channels, people out there doing the good paranormal work and getting them exposure.
And what this has led to you obviously investigating on your own and stuff. What has been one of your favorite investigations that you've done?
Probably my favorite one was probably Black Monarch.
Yeah.
Black Monarch was really cool. Place is so old. I heard footsteps up and down that hall all night long.
It's very easy. The whole floor is a creak bed. You just, everywhere you walk, creak. And so when we're all in our separate rooms in bed, and you start hearing
and it was
that
measured
floor
creaks.
creak. And we're the only ones in the entire building, almost the entire town, to be honest.
It's true.
That was an experience.
Yeah, because I'm sure you guys heard it as well. And it wasn't okay, this isn't 100-year, wooden floors settling. It wasn't house settling noises. It was
heel toe,
measured heel toe footsteps up and down the hallway outside of the bedrooms. And at one point, I know you guys were both asleep, and I heard those footsteps come up into the room I was in, up to the bed, and stop. Almost whatever it was just watching. Maybe what are you doing in my room? And my back was to it, and I was just like, I'm gonna roll over, and there's gonna be nothing there. Do I do? Yes. And I roll over, and there was nothing there, and I was like, okay, good, because I did not hear the door move. So if it had been one of them, they wouldn't have come in without knocking or saying hey, can I come in for a second? The door did not move at all. It was just footsteps that came in the room and just stopped. I was like, okay. So that place was super active. The basement was awesome. That's probably my favorite one.
So along with helping investigating here and there, doing interview shows, doing the Murder Corner, you also help secure locations for teams.
Yes.
What are the difficulties you have, or what is that experience like?
I don't think I'm allowed to say the name of the show, but I think you guys all probably know what show I'm talking about. I have to constantly go behind and put out fires for a large production because they kind of wreck things. Maybe not the guys directly, the investigators on the show directly, but the crews that come in with them kind of run roughshod over the locations. and things get broken, things get misrepresented. So a lot of times when I go into locations and I'm contacting on behalf of a smaller, like another channel, they basically say, oh, you're not going to pull a insert name here, are you? No. They've been told not to come back to locations because they've mentioned things that they were not supposed to mention on the air and did anyway. So that makes it a challenge for location scouts like myself when you have big productions go in and kind of wreck house. And then there's a location that just out and out told us no at one point because they were so unhappy with the portrayal of the location on the show that they were like, we don't allow paranormal investigations anymore at all. So that sucks.
Yeah. So what's next, now that you've wrapped up your cult series, what's next for the show?
So still going on the Murder Corner. So now we're going to do another mini series that I've just recently started, which is only one episode up right now, but it's going to be female killers, lady killers, which the last episode I just did most recently is Catherine Knight, Cannibal Killer. That one was a pretty fun video. So, and maybe some crossover videos because we've done one. I would like to do another one.
Yeah, I went to a cemetery that had a, I guess a spree killer, more of a spree killer, buried somewhere in there in an unmarked grave. And so I immediately contacted you and I'm like, hey, I got something right up your corner. And we did like a double episode.
My murder corner, who?
So that was fun. And one of the things I really like about your show and everything you do is you're so collaborative and you like to bring people together and work together. I think that's kind of how half of the people me and Patrick met was through you and the work you do.
You guys met me 2 years ago at this very location at the first event. You guys had the Paranormal Takeover, and they've not been able to get rid of me ever since. No. So they've tried.
We've cleansed.
They've tried. They've saged. I just keep coming back.
Does anybody have any questions for Vivian?
Yes.
Cody.
I saw a head like.
I got it. What is your favorite part about being? We'll call you a talk show. What's your favorite part about that?
Getting to meet people, like getting to meet and interview different people from different walks of life and getting to hear about their varied experiences. Just because I think the human experience is a fascinating one. Like everybody sees life through a little bit of a different lens, and kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and hearing their story and listening to their experiences is always a fascinating thing for me.
Nice. Anybody else? Patrick? Patrick of the Haunted Side.
Hello. Have you ever thought about doing your own paranormal investigation series for a YouTube or something like that?
Yes, I thought about it doing like kind of branching off and doing some stuff with the Dead Hours, the regular Dead Hour show. Once I think I would like to have, I don't know exactly what I want to do with it, but I've kicked around the idea. Like I haven't 100% committed to it, but it's something I would like to explore. I did.
Janine?
Since I know you have a lot going on and everything, are you looking to do any more writing in the future?
Yes. I actually have 2 books that I'm working on. I do have 2 books published on Amazon. That are short story books. So they're not very long, but they are available on Amazon. One is a science fiction short story book, and the other one is horror short stories, kind of inspired by Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, because that was my favorite book when I was a kid. I have a full novel that I'm actually working on. I'm about 120 pages in to that one. Haven't worked on it recently, but I do have a publisher for it when it is done.
Nice.
I just want to say that I love all the hard work and dedication that you put in for your channel, especially talking about the murder stuff with that. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Subscribe. Sean.
1K.
We know you've actually been on a few investigations.
Mm-hmm.
What was your most prominent situation you've been in?
Probably I would say probably at Commercial Casino. I had my name come through the Ovulus and the Spirit Box back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jason and I in that one room, we got that pain at the same time.
Yeah.
That place was very physical.
Was that your first experience, and how did you feel about it?
It was the first probably like the first physical experience. And it was funny because like when you said you're like your name got said twice, and I went, he's like, you didn't react like really at all, and it was like that was cool. Like it I don't know, like I've not gotten scared like at a location really. I've had things thrown at me. Like I don't really get rattled. I take it in, I guess, and then I just kind of like, that was cool. Do it again. Like, but I've not been really violently attacked or anything.
With the asterisk screams internally.
Screams, yeah, just oh, that was a thing. That was a pretty definitive response.
True. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
There's a huge list of places to go that are
Yes.
haunted in the United States. Do you think that there's one place that you've discovered that's just haunted? Like you go there and this is staged. It's gotta be like
And it's a lot of buildup. Yes. The Clown Motel in Tonopah.
Yeah.
It is not haunted.
It is infested with bed bugs.
It's not haunted. It's not haunted.
What about the cemetery?
The cemetery is haunted.
Okay.
Yes, the cemetery. We investigated when we were on the podcast. We did an investigation at that cemetery when we were in Tonopah quite a few years ago, and we did get quite a few. I mean, we got like crazy responses on the spirit box. We had some EVPs come through that were really definitive. When we would ask questions, we got direct responses. One of the craziest things, and I think I told Patrick this story, that I was like, because I think you guys were maybe going to go up and do that at one point. They said definitively, because we were getting ready to leave the cemetery, and we're like, is there anything we can do for you? Because the Tonopah Cemetery, you've been there.
Oh yeah.
It's very old. They stopped burying people there in 1912. So a lot of the stones are not tended anymore, and some of them are kind of faded, and you don't know who they are and things like that. So we were like, is there anything we can do for you before we leave? And they definitively, through the spirit box, said lights, because that cemetery is pitch black dark. So I was like, okay, we can bring you lights. Like, so yes, the cemetery, yes. Clown Motel, no, it's just creepy and dirty. Because clowns are terrifying. The Mizpah, though, is off the chain. That place is haunted, for sure. Ceiling, the upper rooms, the lady in red rooms, the basement, like the basement for sure. The basement's crazy activity in the basement.
Anybody else? Patrick's giving us the thumbs up. We did good.
Thumbs up. We did good.
Yay. Well, how can people find everything that you do on the World Wide Web?
So I'm on kind of a little bit of everything. So I'm on YouTube as The Dead Hours, which is the true crime stuff, is currently still on YouTube. Paraflix has the interview stuff, which I'll be starting up for like season 2 again with that. And then I have Instagram, same. It's The Dead Hours on Instagram. Twitter, I think I have a Twitter. I barely use it. But I'm also on TikTok under Paranormal. I'm clever sometimes. But I do like to make fun little like paranormal like parody videos on there, just more like comedy stuff, like my little observations about the paranormal community, and like to poke fun at it sometimes. It's all in good fun.
Sweet. Well, I think that's it.
There's one more person. You couldn't say it.
He's so short. Matt Benton.
Did Matt have a question?
Yes.
Stand on the chair, Matt.
Stand on the chair.
That's what they said. I was curious. Look, you do a lot of research on different serial killers, and
Yes.
there's a different variety of personality types. Which ones did you find those most intriguing to you? Or
The most intriguing serial killer to me with the most intriguing background is Jeffrey Dahmer. Solely because he tends to break the mold of most serial killers with his background. His background and his upbringing are very different. So I'm very interested as to why he turned out the way he did. It's a very nature versus nurture kind of argument that could be made on either side. But he's fascinating to me. Yeah, he's fascinating. I won't say like there's a difference. Also, I won't say he's my favorite, or like because there are true crime fangirls, and that bothers me. Like that I don't like. I'm like, I will say something fascinates me, But there are people out there that take the true crime fandom thing a little too far.
That's why I didn't say favorite.
Yeah, exactly. That take that a little far, and I'm like, that's creepy. No.
You do have to kind of watch the wordplay when talking about true crime.
Exactly.
Because while it can fascinate you, why it can be super interesting to you, what you don't want is to treat it as like legit entertainment.
No.
Like these people's stories and the things that happened are not entertainment for us.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
it's
it
like,
is a look into the human nature. And
right. You have to look in, I feel like you have to look into the dark side of human nature to understand humanity as a whole. And sometimes that is really ugly to look at. But you also have to remember that there were people at the center of these crimes that were the victims, that their names need to be said, like their stories need to be told as well. And a lot of times shows or things tend to focus on the killer themselves rather than like, you have to have a fair balance where you have to show that like this person was awful. Like they killed people. These people had names, you know, so you have to be respectful. That's the whole thing. And that's where I end up having an issue with some of the true crime community is that they do things with not a lot of respect sometimes. Like, please don't show up to like Chris Watts' house. The family have like that happens a lot. Like it's awful. Like people, the family that owns it or people that own it have asked people not to show up there, and people still show up there, come up with their phones on private property, filming inside the house with their phones up to the door. So please don't do that. That's disrespectful and just yucky, just gross. It's a bad look.
That's right.
Just don't.
All right. Well, thank you, Vivian. And we will return shortly with another panel.
Yes, we will.
Bye, guys.